The American Revolution, a pivotal moment in history, was the culmination of various political, economic, and social factors that led the 13 colonies to break away from British rule. Understanding the causes of this monumental event involves exploring several key developments, including the Proclamation of 1763, the Intolerable Acts, the Stamp Act, and broader issues like mercantilism and lack of representation in Parliament. Let's start with the Proclamation of 1763. Following the French and Indian War, the British government issued this decree to stabilize relations with Native American tribes and to prevent further conflicts. It prohibited colonists from settling west of the Appalachian Mountains, an area that many had hoped to explore and develop. This decision was met with resentment among settlers, who felt it curtailed their opportunities for expansion and economic prosperity. Next, the Stamp Act of 1765 introduced direct taxation on an array of paper goods, including newspapers, legal documents, and playing cards. This legislation marked the first time Britain levied taxes directly on the colonies with the specific purpose of raising revenue for the crown. The colonists were outraged, arguing that they should not be taxed without representation in Parliament, a principle they famously encapsulated in the slogan, "No taxation without representation." This sentiment stoked the flames of unrest and laid the groundwork for greater resistance. In response to growing colonial defiance, the British government enacted the Intolerable Acts in 1774. These punitive measures were intended to reassert control, particularly over Massachusetts following the Boston Tea Party. The acts closed Boston Harbor, altered the Massachusetts Charter, and allowed British officials accused of crimes to be tried in England, among other provisions. These acts were perceived as a direct assault on colonial autonomy and unity, galvanizing many colonists to support a collective response. Another significant factor was the concept of mercantilism, the economic theory that trade generates wealth and is stimulated by the accumulation of profitable balances. Under British mercantilist policy, the colonies were expected to supply raw materials to Britain and, in return, purchase British manufactured goods. This system limited the colonies' trade with other nations and was perceived as an exploitation of colonial resources, fueling further dissatisfaction. Beyond these specific policies, the lack of representation in the British Parliament was a fundamental grievance. Colonists believed they should have a say in decisions affecting their lives and livelihoods, yet they were denied this right by a distant government. This exclusion not only bred resentment, but also fostered a burgeoning sense of American identity separate from Britain. Lastly, British economic policies following the French and Indian War added to the tensions. The war had left Britain with substantial debt, prompting the government to seek new revenue streams, much of which targeted the colonies. This included a variety of taxes and trade restrictions that were perceived as oppressive and unjust. In conclusion, the causes of the American Revolution were multifaceted, born from a series of British actions and policies that increasingly infringed upon the liberties and economic interests of the American colonists. These issues not only fostered resentment and a desire for self-governance, but also united the diverse colonies in a shared struggle for independence. Through understanding these complex causes, we gain insight into the origins of a revolution that would ultimately reshape the world.